Mollie Hemingway, executive editor of the Federalist, also Fox News contributor, joins me. Good morning, Mollie. How are you?
Great to be here with you.
Mollie, I want to talk about the latest attack on Justice Thomas. I've been waiting for 5 days to talk about this with you. For 30 years, the left and legacy media, and that sometimes is the same thing, have hated Clarence Thomas. Now, I had the good fortune to know him in the Reagan years a little bit, and I've met him once since, and he's been a guest on my show. But I don't know him in the way that maybe you do. But I do know that the legacy media is obsessed with him. And yesterday, Jake Sherman and I kind of sparked it up a little bit because Punchbowl said serious questions have been raised. There is no serious question. Justice Thomas has done nothing wrong. But how has it been presented inside the Beltway, Mollie?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned, first off, about how these attacks on Justice Thomas have been going on for well more than 30 years. But yes, in the Beltway, there is a report from a left-wing media group that says that Justice Thomas has a very wealthy friend who has taken Justice Thomas on trips and holidays together, and that he has failed to report this as required by the law. The problem being there's absolutely no such requirement of any of this, or hasn't been for the entirety of his time as a justice, and that these types of trips have been taken by other justices. I mean, I think Justice Brewer took like 235 such trips that weren't reported, weren't reported officially. And so it's trying to impeach an unimpeachable character, which is what I would say about Justice Thomas.
Well, he is unimpeachable, as is Ginny Thomas. But there is a continual conflation of insinuation, innuendo, and a bare fact here and there. Harlan Crow's a very wealthy man. Harlan Crow has extended generosity to the Thomases. Everybody in Washington, D.C., and I mean everybody, takes care of the justices and other judges who are district court and federal court judges. Everybody does it as well for members of the clergy. Everybody does it for journalists, Mollie. And there is no ethical breach. Moreover, Article 3 judges are independent of Congress. And this insinuation never ends, does it?
It doesn't. And yeah, that's what they're trying to say. They're like, there are rules for other people that if they were to have a friend like this or have relations like this, they might have to report some aspect of it if they're in Congress or if they're a federal bureaucrat. So therefore, Justice Thomas is evil and wrong. Well, that doesn't mean that Supreme Court justices have such reporting requirements. He actually put out a statement saying that when he had this friendship that had this type of aspect to it, he talked to advisors about what he needed to report and what he didn't need to report, and was told he didn't need to report this. But it's not really about this anyway. None of this is about Justice Thomas having a super wealthy friend. I want to just make one other point, though. Justice Thomas is probably one of the least wealthy Supreme Court justices in history. He's known for, in fact, taking his RV around the country when he goes on vacation and parking it in a Walmart parking lot, because those are the kinds of people he likes to hang out with. The idea that this guy is corrupted by having one wealthy friend is ridiculous. But again, it's not about that. It's about the fact that Justice Thomas is very clear in his legal reasoning, that he's an important presence on the court in a manner that liberals would like him not to be.
Mollie, I also think there's a larger agenda at work. They want to smear him as his work gains incredible reputation for its clarity. Now, I don't agree with the justice on his particular approach to substantive due process and is anti-incorporation, many things in the law. I don't agree with him. But if I want someone to understand originalism, I give him his opinion in McDonald versus City of Chicago, because it's completely fairly articulated there. The animus is race-based. That's why they hate Clarence Thomas. Am I correct?
Oh, it's not even, I don't think anyone even disputes that. I think you might even have many people on the left admitting that. This is a black man, and he very much, even probably some of the disagreements that you have, such as on substantive due process, are related to his care and concern for certain provisions as they relate to the history of black Americans. And he comes out very differently than how white liberals would like him to come out. And they tried saying for years that he didn't do anything, and it turned out that he was having so much effect on the court, shaping its jurisprudence so much that became a laughable lie. And now they're just trying to tear him down and get rid of him. They've been obsessed with wanting to get rid of him, since he was first even hinted at as a nominee.
And this doesn't surprise me in its timing. not a conspiracy theorist, but Amul Thapar has a new book coming out. Judge Thapar has a brilliant new book about Clarence Thomas coming out, about how he always identifies with the underdog in these cases. He's always aware of, like in Kelo, who's getting screwed by government. And he's very much onto the facts of that. And so they've got a great, well-researched book by one of the most respected federal judges out there, district court judge nominated by Trump to the Sixth Circuit. He's on the Sixth Circuit now, and a superstar. And he's writing this book, and now we get this ProPublica nonsense. And I weary of whether or not we're ever going to change the culture of Washington, D.C.
I do too. Writing the Kavanaugh book with Carrie Severino, Justice on Trial, we were motivated in large part because of what we had seen happen with Justice Thomas. She clerked for Justice Thomas. We knew how the left would never stop trying to destroy this man, that when he made it onto the court, they did not view that as a victory that should chasten them in any way. They knew they would just continue their project, and they have tried to tear him down for decades. The Kavanaugh operation was a repeat of the Thomas operation, which is why anyone who saw it happening should have known it from the moment it started, that this was just the same thing we saw as with Justice Thomas. But it does seem that the left's attacks on the courts are increasing, that they are getting more brazen, and I do worry about it because the courts are the one institution that they have not been able to completely overtake.
I also want to point out they're attacking the Federalist Society and Leonard Leo on a consistent, extensive, continuing basis. And the Stanford meltdown was over a Trump judge, conservative judge, on a prestigious law school campus. And I didn't think it was particularly fair for the judges who've said no Stanford law review students need apply to us, because it's a wide net, right? It gets Federalist Society members who are themselves the victim. But it is an indication that the judges are aware, and they're going to fight back, Mollie, and I applaud that. Do you?
I love that they're fighting back, and I do want to defend Judge Ho and the other federal judge who said this. I do think you need to do something intense, and that, in fact, more judges should sound the alarm, and that people should know that there are consequences to getting an education from a school that will not teach you some of the foundational principles of being a judge, of being a good attorney, and that if you don't push back hard, they just won't feel the pressure of the heat to do what they need to do. Judge Duncan never deserved to have his daughters attacked like that. He's brilliant, as you know, on so many issues that matter in the First Amendment. The idea that you shouldn't attack any judge. The idea you attack someone like Judge Kyle Duncan is really reprehensible.
Well, I think what's going on there is just an attempt to delegitimize the Federalist Society because it's so effective. It's so good. And there have been some, I'm not now a member. I don't join anything for this reason. I want to be able to defend the Federalist Society against all comers. It's a marvelous substitution of what used to happen on academic campuses, which on law school level have gone just so decidedly left. I don't know if you've already got another book. If you ever do it, you and Carrie get together again, just do law school faculties. They are completely unhinged.
It's bad. It's getting worse. And I do want to say you're absolutely right that the attacks on the Federalist Society are because they're effective. I think that people should think about whether there's a way to expand what the Federalist Society has done for law schools and for the legal profession, and think about other ways. You know, when the Federalist Society started, they were operating without anything to their benefit, and they've made dramatic and important change and made a sort of a rescue operation for a lot of good lawyers and judges. There should be things like this for the administrative state, for academia in general. You know, the model's there, it's been deployed, it's done good work, and it's being attacked because it's done good work. So replicate it and expand it.
Now, I want to get one more comment from you having to do with Hillsdale. The New Yorker went up to Hillsdale, and they said very predictable things. Very predictable thing. Are they next in line for the legacy media's attacks?
Well, they've been. I get to teach at Hillsdale at our Kirby Center in Washington, D.C., which I love. My students are wonderful. Hillsdale has been under attack a little bit for several years. It does seem, again, to be increasing. This piece in the New Yorker was kind of hilarious in how obsessed it was with trying to be negative about a school. It's clearly a crowning jewel in the academy right now. But yeah, I'd expect more.
You know what the poker tell was in that article, Molly? Their criticism of small city gentry types who have made their modest fortunes in obscure industries. It's just so self-revealing. They can't even control their poker tells. MZ Hemingway on Twitter. Follow Molly. Listen to